Hi, welcome, and this is Orion Today. Today we have as our guest a collector of Army vehicles, Kent Wallace. He's going to be describing how tanks were used in warfare and where they're going in the future. Welcome, Kent.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, when were tanks first introduced into warfare?
Well, really, they were first used seriously in World War I, and they were not very successful a lot of the time. There were vehicles that had the treads that are like that were used in farming, and they thought, well, you know, since we're losing so many men to being machine gunned out in the no man's land, it would be nice to have an armored vehicle that could protect them as they went forward. So they made these tanks, and these first tanks were not very successful. They were smelly. The exhaust killed quite a few of the men who were inside of them. They only went about 4 or 5 miles an hour, about the speed of walking, and they frequently broke down. But they did have the ability to protect men from machine gun fire, and they could go across the trenches. And so people saw that there was a value in the tanks, and so they made their debut in World War I, and then they were massively developed in World War II, where they really came in their own.
So they were really not properly used during World War I. They were just kind of like a new item, new gadget, or whatever.
Yeah, just like the airplane was. I mean, you know, when you think of that, the Wright brothers, only a few years before World War I broke out, were doing their gliders and their primitive flights, and next thing you know, you had air forces that were fighting in World War I and those biplanes. And then in World War II, there was a huge change in the technology. And it's something that we've seen a lot in all aspects of warfare, huge changes.
So how did tank warfare change in World War II?
Well, it mostly changed with the Germans. They were the first ones to really concentrate on armored units. So that was what the Blitzkrieg was about. They had these fast-moving armored units that would come in and very quickly overcome people. They were, yes.
Is this one of the tanks they used during the Blitzkrieg?
That's the Panzerkampfwagen 4, and it was one of their early tanks, and it was very successful. It was fast. It had an FM radio. The tanks were able to communicate with each other, and they were brought together as a group, which was what the Germans did that the Allies didn't learn until later. They used the tanks mostly as infantry support, whereas the Germans tended to bring a whole bunch of them together and use them en masse, and they would take over.
So who had the most superior tanks at the beginning of the war?
Well, you know, that's interesting. The French actually had more tanks than the Germans, but because they weren't grouped together or properly utilized, they weren't very effective, whereas the Germans, their tanks were very effective, and they were grouped together, and they were able to conquer most of Europe that way.
So how did, during the war, how did the tank configuration change?
It changed a dramatic amount. When you're dealing with armored vehicles, there are always 3 things that you have to worry about. One is its defensive ability, its armor. The second thing is its mobility. And the third thing is its offensive weapons. And a lot of times it's kind of an awkward balance, because you can make something that's very heavy and armored, much like the Russians had made this big monster of a tank that had all kinds of guns and stuff, but it was so heavy that it could barely move, and there weren't many bridges that could carry its weight. It would break anything that it went on. So they weren't very effective, those huge tanks, whereas the smaller, faster tanks were very effective.
So like I see a couple examples of different tanks. You have like a kind of like an anti-aircraft tank here.
Yeah,
so
that's...
they configured, this is like later, but like they have like one tank here is like a mortar type tank.
Right.
That was probably used for like siege.
Yeah, and this is really technically not a tank. It's a cannon basically that's on armored frame, but they call them more mobile artillery. But these were huge guns that had the ability to, what the military calls shoot and scoot. They could move them to an area where they wanted them. They would be able to fire, and then they could drive away very quickly.
So a lot of people have heard of like the German Tiger tanks. So like you have a couple examples here of German Tiger tanks here.
We do.
This was, you're talking about, these are all these tanks are to scale with each other. So you can see like the first Tiger tank, and this is the second one, how much bigger the tank mass increased and how it looks even more like a modern tank, more
Yes,
like
it
a
does.
modern, you know.
Yeah, you see on this one it's kind of squarish. This was the first one. On the second one, you see how the armor is sloped, and that incline increased the protection, you know, because when a bullet would go straight at it, when it was on an angle, it was like going through much more armor.
Okay.
And it would also bounce a lot of shells off of it.
So yeah, it's mostly used for deflection off of, okay.
But that was one of the problems that the American guns on the Sherman tanks, which is, let's see, where's a Sherman? Here's a Sherman. These were so much smaller, the guns, and they, you know, the guys who were operating them said it was like throwing tennis balls at these armored Panzer tanks, because they would just bounce off. And it would take as many as like 5 or 6 Shermans to take out a single Tiger tank. And, you know, that's not very good for the crew, obviously.
So what was the ratio of tanks to each other? Like how many American tanks were there and how many German tanks? Were they like?
Yeah, that's a really good point to make. This tank, the Sherman, was probably the most common tank that America made, and they made about 50,000 of them. And this one is the Russian T-34, which was also a really good tank. See, it's much smaller than the others, but they also made about 50,000 of these. In comparison, the big Tiger tanks, they only made a very few thousand of them, sometimes hundreds of them, and they were massively over-engineered, kind of like with the German car industry today, that they make a few really good cars instead of masses of more economical ones.
So you had the survivability in the German or the Russian tank and the American tank were kind of low then, huh?
No, yeah, a lot of people died in those things. They called this the Ronson, because of the Ronson lighter. It lights every time it just got hit. It was gasoline powered, and one shell and it would burst into flames.
Okay. Well, Kent, thank you very much for coming on the show today. Everybody stay tuned. We're going to have another segment for the Orion Today, and stay tuned. Thank you.
When I'm in Lake Orion and I want to catch up on sports, I watch Between Terraminas.
My name is DJ Pam Hornbeck, and these are some of the singers that are on Karaoke on TV every Saturday night. And we would like to invite you to come out and join us. Does everyone have fun with us?
To find out how you can sing on Karaoke on TV, please call the ONTV studio at 248-393-1060.
Welcome back to Orion Today. Joining us from Michigan Adaptive Sports, we have David Henry and Kathy DeBaker. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now, Michigan Adaptive Sports, what's that all about?
Michigan Adaptive Sports is a is a volunteer organization right here in just north of Detroit area, where we get to take students out with disabilities, all different types that Kathy can help you describe and get them out enjoying the outdoors.
So we take care of people who have disabilities, from intellectual disabilities like autism to people with physical disabilities like cerebral palsy or amputations or paraplegics. Those type of things. We cover pretty much anything, any kind of disability that someone has. We can get them out on the snow and enjoy the
Out on the snow.
Yeah.
Right now, I noticed you guys brought that along. What exactly is that?
This piece of equipment is a monoski. It's used for people that typically would have a back injury, not able to use their legs, but able to use their hands and arms. And they're able to go down the ski hill, enjoying the great outdoors on a nice winter day.
All right.
It loads up on the chairlift. They can get to the point where they're completely independent, able to load this onto the chair by themselves and offload the chairlift by themselves, and then ski all levels of the ski hill and get out there and enjoy it, tear it up.
That is outstanding. So it seems like you're giving individuals that normally wouldn't have an opportunity to enjoy skiing a vehicle in which they can do that. So now, is that something that you guys furnish? I mean, how do you procure those?
These pieces of equipment, we end up purchasing. Our group as fundraisers to gather up money,
Okay.
and able to purchase these. This particular piece of equipment is roughly about $4,000. It's got a really high-tech shock suspension system, and has all of the safety requirements to make sure that you're able to get down the hill and have a good time. And then the bindings and ski itself also get added to that. So it's a specialized piece of equipment.
Right now, I understand that there's a bi-ski as well, and I believe you brought a video along to show that as well.
Yeah, I think we're going to show a monoski
show the
first.
video?
And yeah.
Okay, let's see what you have. You can kind of describe to our viewers what we're going to be seeing in the video here.
So this is someone heading down the slope in a
Actually
monoski.
me.
It is actually. It's Kathy.
All right, Kathy, you
skiing
were holding
down.
out.
And yeah, I'm behind, making sure everything's going well. You can see there's two of us volunteers tracking to make sure that as we go down, we're in safe, as well as enjoying the whole hill and the slope. And Kathy's doing a great job getting across all parts of the ski hill, and making some great turns in control as we head down to the bottom. And you can see the chairlift where we will end this particular run.
So this is Pine Knob, right?
It is Pine Knob.
Exactly. Pine Knob is the place we go pretty much most Saturdays through the winter, and they take great care of us and do a great job of making sure that their whole team, whether it's the load lift operators or the people that are taking care of us inside, really do a super fantastic job of taking care of all of our students and volunteers.
So they're very accommodating. How long have you been working with Pine Knob?
We have been with Pine Knob more than 15 years, probably closer to 20, that they've been giving us this support.
That's outstanding.
They're great.
Outstanding.
So they allow people, I mean, I used to ski, so they allowed me to go back to being able to ski by using, a monoski.
Okay, now I think earlier we were mentioning that there's a bi-ski as well. Now,
Yes.
what's the difference between the?
So monoski, mono being one, has only one ski
Okay.
on the bottom, and a bi-ski has two skis, so it would be a little bit more stable, a little bit easier for someone who has a greater disability.
Okay. Now, I understand we're seeing some additional video. Is this the?
So this
the
would be a
bi-ski?
bi-ski.
And this bi-ski is being bucket steered down the hill. The person there would probably not be able to use their arms and hands, but you can see they're getting out to enjoy the slopes, having some fun, and getting to enjoy the beautiful day.
Now, I noticed earlier you mentioned just the volunteers. Now, how many volunteers do you need just on average on a Saturday to assist?
Usually we have about 11 or 12 skiers, participants in the morning, and for each participant there's at least 2 and often 3 or 4 people with each person. It depends on what their disability is, whether they are a sit skier or a stand-up skier.
Okay.
And so it just really depends on what the person's disability is, but there's usually, I would say there's probably 35 to 40 people that are volunteering out there on any given Saturday.
Now, how many kids do you get on average?
Oh, those are the fun rides.
Uh-oh.
Taking the kids out is always a lot of fun, but we would get 50%?
I would say probably 50% are kids and 50% are adults. So we do both. It just depends. We don't usually take teeny tiny itty bitty kids. They usually have to be about 6-ish, maybe about 50 pounds.
Now, is there instruction? You give some level of instruction before they just
Yes.
head down the hill? I mean, you kind of look like you knew what you were doing, so you're kind of maneuvering through there.
But I didn't know what I was doing the first time that I ever went down in a sit ski, but
So
no,
how
they're
does-
very good at giving instructions.
So yeah, all of the instructors that we have gone through PSIA, which is a certification for skiing, whether you're a stand-up instructor or a sit-type equipment instructor. So myself being a mono ski instructor, I've gone through the disciplines to receive that certificate, which would be the same as if you went to Pine Knob and went for a regular stand-up lesson. Those people have the same type of credentials. So we have that training that is geared for these kinds of pieces of equipment, so we're able to teach the students the right progressions to be sure that they're safe, as well as get out there and enjoy and have fun.
Well, now, how would someone get involved? I guess in two regards. One, as a volunteer, and then as a participant.
Probably the same way. They would go to our website, and so there are, which is michiganadaptivesports.com, and there are forms on there for volunteering, and then there are forms on there for the participant, and then they get mailed in or emailed back, whichever.
No, because I believe earlier you said that unit was $4,000.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how if someone wanted to contribute or donate, how would they do that as well?
Also on the website that Kathy mentioned is one of the best ways to be able to contribute to our organization, to help us raise funds for these kinds of things. Everyone in our group, they're all volunteers, from the instructors to the buddies. We're all just out there having a good time. And so it's really, we're raising funds to gather the equipment and all the things that we need to be able to enjoy and give back to the people that want to get outside and enjoy the snow.
Awesome. Now, do you have any fundraisers at all? Anything?
So usually we have a couple of things that we do. We try and do things like Tiger Games, Red Wing Games, where we do fundraisers, but one of the easiest ways is through Kroger's. They have a community rewards program, so anytime if people go and register, they give back a certain percentage to us with no cost or no harm to anyone. They just have to go to Kroger's and register for Michigan Adaptive Sports.
So it is very easy,
It's very easy
to get involved. Well, I think that's all we have time for today. So I want to thank you both for joining us. And Michigan Adaptive Sports, remember that. And we're going to close with a video. And thank you once again for joining us. Coming back soon with some more for Orion Today.
Such is the way of the world, you can never know just where to put all your faith and how will it grow. Gonna rise up, burning black holes and dark memories. Gonna rise up, turn mistakes into glow. Oh, such is the passage of time, too fast to fold, suddenly swallowed by signs, lo and behold.
Hello, I'm Mike Bouchard, the Oakland County Sheriff. There's a big problem that faces all the communities in America today, and that's abuse of legitimate prescription drugs. Sometimes they're left in the home when a loved one passes away, or they're in the medicine cabinet for someone else, and a youngster in the home steals it and they abuse it. It's one of the fastest growing drug abuses that we see in our community and across the country. Secondly, we see these drugs oftentimes when they're no longer utilized being flushed down the drain, and we're seeing higher levels of residual pharmaceuticals in our waterways and our streams. So, to solve two problems with one effort, we partnered with Home Instead Senior Care to start a program called Operation Medicine Cabinet to get those drugs out of the homes, out of the hands of youngsters, and out of the waterway, and safely and environmentally destroy them. Learn more about the program at OperationMedicineCabinetMI.com and be part of the solution. Thank you.
Hi, welcome back to Orion Today. I'm your host, Andre Ratliff. This is our sports segment. To my right, we have our guest today, Larry White.
How you doing?
And let's get straight into it. Let's talk NBA. Who do you feel is the best team in the NBA right now?
Right now, the Golden State Warriors are playing the best basketball. They've just been punishing teams, Eastern Conference and Western Conference teams. So Golden State would be my pick.
I'm going to have to say the San Antonio Spurs. With their addition of big men, I think they'll be hard to beat in a 4-game series.
I disagree.
Yeah.
I wouldn't agree with you.
Why? So if we get into a 4-game series and they have to slow the game up and it becomes more of a grind, I don't think that the Warriors have enough big men to stop LaMarcus Aldridge, Tim Duncan, David West.
I agree when it comes to that side of it, but you know, they're running the ball, they're scoring, they're doing all of the things that got them a championship last year. So, like I said, my pick would be Golden State, hands down.
Okay, so you don't believe in live by the 3, die by it?
Nope, because they've been living by it and it's been working, so why not?
Understood. Let's move on to our next topic. Let's talk MVP. It's been a lot of talk. The two front runners seem to be Stephen Curry and Draymond Green. So if you had to pick out of those two, who would you pick?
Of course, Steph Curry. I don't even know how Draymond got in the vote.
I mean, he leads the league in triple doubles. He's also an all-star. You could say he's kind of the engine. A lot of times off the break, he's getting the ball, he's pushing a fast break, he's setting screens for Steph Curry.
Right.
He's a mismatch at the 4 position because a lot of times he's smaller and faster than a lot of teams' 4. He can shoot 3. A lot of power forwards aren't used to playing out on the perimeter. So I just think that he kind of is the engine. We all know how good Steph Curry is.
Right now, Steph Curry is on another planet. He's just playing phenomenal basketball. So my vote for that would be Steph Curry.
Okay, I got a quick question. So do you think if they take Draymond Green out of that lineup, so he's not there, do you think that Steph and Klay get the same type of shots?
They're a passive team. They share the ball really well, so I think so.
Okay. Let's move on. Let's say you had to start an NBA franchise.
Okay.
Starting with the point guard. Who would you take right now, Steph Curry or Russell Westbrook?
Steph Curry.
Still Steph Curry?
I'm going with Steph.
You know, I think I would take Russell. The reason is he's 6'4", one of the most athletic players in the league.
Okay.
It's a matchup nightmare. And when Kevin Durant went out during, I think it was the year before last playoff series, he averaged a triple-double, put up ridiculous numbers. And I just think that if they were to play a game of one-on-one, there's no way that just physically Steph Curry could stop Russell Westbrook.
Okay, you got to understand, too, when Kevin Durant went out, he was like, Kevin Durant's pretty much Robin. So he had to step up and be Batman. So now that Batman is back, he needs to go back to his Robin role. That's how I feel.
I don't know. I just like him. I think back to when the Thunder were playing Miami series. I kind of saw, as good as Kevin Hart, as good as Kevin Durant is, I kind of saw him fold a couple times. And Russell, he carried him. He had 45 and 41, I think, in back-to-back games. Right. We just beg to differ on that one.
Okay.
I'll give you that one. So we'll move on to the next question. And is it time for the Bulls to let go of D. Rose, to dump him? They put a lot of money into him. They put $90 million into him. He hasn't played a lot of games. When he has played, he's been average? I hate to say it.
I'm kind of on the fence with it. It's like 50-50 because some games he shows you spurts of the old Derrick Rose, and then some games he's just a waste of time on the court.
Not worth $90 million.
Yeah.
And I think the Bulls are in a tough spot because they gave him the money. Obviously, he's had injuries, and now it's a situation of, are you going to get something worth that? That's still a lot of money on his contract, so I think they're kind of stuck with him for a while.
Okay.
All right. Moving on, let's talk Pistons. The Pistons are doing pretty well right now. They're in 7th place. They're a fun team to watch.
That's pretty well.
I mean, compared to, come on now.
Okay.
They're fun to watch, but to take the next step in the Eastern Conference, what pieces do you think they need to have to be able to match up with a Cleveland?
I think they really need a small forward. They have all the pieces coming off the bench, but if they get a solidified small forward, they'll be right in the top 3, maybe top 5 Eastern Conference teams.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that one because traditionally the wing player is the scorer. That's the dynamic player. That's the LeBron, that's the Carmelo, that's the Kevin Durant. And Marcus Morris, he's a solid player, but I think he's more of a backup. He's not a starter. You just need more firepower. I think they could use a 2-guard as well. Caldwell Pope plays hard defense, solid player, but you need stars at that position. You need a Klay Thompson. You need somebody like that to compete. And yeah, so I think a solid 2 and a 3. I think we're in agreement with that.
Right.
Since we brought up the Cavs, let's stay there. How do you feel about the coaching change that was made?
I don't agree with it.
Yeah.
I feel like with the coach that they had, if it's not broke, don't fix it. His first year coaching, he took me to the finals, so why would I get rid of him?
Okay, to play devil's advocate, there were talks that he wasn't able to coach LeBron. Basically, LeBron was the coach. He subbed himself in and out. He did what he wanted to at practice.
Stevie Wonder could see that LeBron James was the coach.
So you would have kept him?
I still would have.
Yeah, I think it was. I think this move was coming anyway. If you look, Tyronn Lue was the highest paid assistant coach. He was supposed to get the job before they got David Blatt.
Right.
So I think this was a solid move by them. I think it's kind of weird. How do you feel that Tyronn Lue is going to coach in the All-Star game? And he's only coached 5 regular season games.
I don't think he deserves it.
Yeah.
At all.
How awkward is that?
It's just a waste of time.
Now yourself, you played at Owens Community College, led the team in scoring 2 years. You played ABA basketball in Chicago. You've played ABA basketball in Atlanta. Pontiac basketball legend. You're known all around the city, and you have an event coming up. So I just want to give you this time as we wrap up to kind of tell them what you have going on.
I have a lupus charity event, celebrity basketball game, May 21st. Oakland Elite in Waterford, Michigan, from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. It's donations, that's it.
Okay. Yeah, we're gonna make sure that we try to get out there. It's donations, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna have some T-shirts.
Gonna have some T-shirts. Gonna have a lot of giveaways. Doing a lot of things for the kids. Can you come out and support?
Can you talk about some of the celebrities that may be there?
We have an N1 legend. His name is Springs. Dr. Darius from the radio. Gonna do something with Rasheed Wallace, maybe special appearance. So got a lot of up-and-coming things.
Real good event, man. And proud of you for doing that.
Appreciate it.
Much needed.
Appreciate it.
And as we wrap up here, I just want to say thank you.
No problem.
For coming on the show, man.
No problem.
And until next time.
All right.